On a cold December evening in 1965, something bright tore across the sky over western Pennsylvania and ended in the woods near a small town called Kecksburg. What landed there was never seen clearly by most people, and that absence became the mystery. Within minutes, residents reported a crash, a glow in the trees, and a strange metallic object where the forest thinned. The question that followed has never really gone away. What did people think they saw, and what was taken from the woods? Kecksburg sat in a quiet corner of Pennsylvania, the kind of place where winter nights feel long and the roads disappear into black hills. In a setting like that, a single streak of light could turn an ordinary evening into a legend. The region was already familiar with aircraft, military activity, and the constant movement of the Cold War era. That mattered because in 1965, almost anything unusual in the sky could be mistaken for something secret or something not of this world. Reports say the first thing people noticed was the fireball itself, moving fast and low before breaking into fragments. It was the kind of sight that makes witnesses stop talking and just stare upward. Then came the sound, described by some as a boom and by others as a rolling crash echoing through the valley. In a town this small, sound travels, and so do stories. People moved toward the woods and found a disturbed area near the ground, with smoke or steam reported in some accounts. The scene was brief, confusing, and already slipping beyond the reach of ordinary memory. What made the incident endure was not just the crash report, but the shape of the object people later described. Witnesses claimed it looked metallic, smooth, and unlike a fallen plane or a simple piece of debris. Some descriptions included a cone-like or acorn-like form, with a bronze or coppery tone. That image stuck because it sounded less like wreckage and more like something built with intention. The most compelling claims say officials arrived quickly and secured the area before many locals could get close. If true, that speed helped transform a strange landing into a case of missing evidence. Supporters of the extraordinary interpretation point to that rapid response as central to the story. They argue that whatever was found in the woods was important enough to be removed before the public could examine it. The memory of the object also grew more detailed over time, which is where the case becomes difficult to pin down. Different witnesses remembered different sizes, surfaces, and movements, yet the core impression remained the same. It did not feel ordinary. That core impression matters because eyewitnesses were not describing a distant light alone. They were describing a physical object in the trees, close enough to suggest mass, texture, and a presence that could be touched. In the years that followed, investigators and journalists tried to reconstruct the path of the fireball across the sky. The timing, the direction, and the landing area became the framework for every later argument. One reason the case persists is that the sky event itself was not imaginary. Something bright was seen widely enough to become a regional memory, even by people who disagreed on what it was. That leaves the central problem. Was the fireball a natural meteor, a man-made object, or something else entirely? Each possibility explains part of the story, but none settles every detail cleanly. Meteor explanations are attractive because the sky itself often produces dramatic streaks and sonic effects. A bright fragment can look astonishingly close, especially when it breaks apart over a quiet rural valley. Yet the reports from Kecksburg do not end with a light in the sky. They end with a grounded object, a response on the scene, and a memory of something removed before the town could fully understand it. That is why the case keeps drawing curiosity from people who study unexplained aerial events. It sits at the intersection of witness testimony, official silence, and the uneasy space between rumor and record. The strongest believer case is simple and stubborn. Multiple people saw something descend, authorities moved in, and the object was never publicly identified in a satisfying way. For many, that combination is hard to dismiss. There is also the enduring detail of the object's reported appearance, which sounded engineered rather than accidental. Smooth metal, unusual shape, and a finish that did not match the debris most people expected. Still, a careful look at the evidence invites restraint. Memory changes, stories spread, and a spectacular fireball can easily merge with later assumptions about what must have landed in the woods. Some researchers point out that the object may have been a re-entering satellite or space hardware, which would fit the era's crowded skies. If so, the mystery shifts from extraterrestrial visitors to the chaos of early spaceflight. That explanation has its own appeal, but it still leaves a gap between the sky event and the wooded landing site. The town remembers more than a passing streak. It remembers a moment when the ordinary rules seemed to bend. The most difficult question is not whether people saw light, but whether the object on the ground matched anything known. That is where the case becomes less like a simple sighting and more like an unresolved recovery. For decades, Kecksburg has lived in that uncertainty, with local memory, media reports, and official explanations never fully aligning. The result is a story that feels both specific and strangely incomplete. That incompleteness is part of why the incident still resonates. A bright object crossed the sky, something was said to have landed, and the public record never quite captured the whole shape of the event. If the object was mundane, why did so many details feel exceptional to those who were there? And if it was extraordinary, why does the trail of evidence remain so thin and contested? Those are the kinds of questions that keep the Kecksburg incident alive long after the smoke cleared. The case survives not because every claim is certain, but because the uncertainty itself is unusually vivid. In the end, the most honest reading may be that something real happened in the sky and on the ground, but the meaning of it was never fully secured. That is a narrow space, yet it is where the mystery still lives. Kecksburg remains a reminder that some cases are not solved by louder theories, only by better evidence. Until that evidence appears, the fireball, the woods, and the missing object continue to invite the same question. What exactly came down over Kecksburg that December night, and why did its trail end in silence? For a small town in Pennsylvania, that unanswered question became a lasting piece of sky lore.